Can religious belief serve not only as a source of comfort, but as a robust system for personal transformation? We often view faith as a shelter from the storm, yet history suggests it is actually a training ground for ethical strength and resilience. Across all walks of life, these ancient systems offer more than just hope. They provide the structural framework for building a life of substance. Long before the advent of psychology or modern productivity gurus, religious belief systems offered humanity its earliest and most enduring frameworks for personal development. These traditions did not merely exist to soothe existential fears. They provided structured, rigorous paths for becoming wiser and more integrated human beings. By helping individuals regulate desire and cultivate virtue, faith became the original blueprint for aligning the self with a higher order. Across cultures, sacred teachings have always guided human conduct through specific, actionable codes. In Buddhism, the Eightfold Path directs the seeker toward right mindfulness and action, while the Hindu yamas and niyamas form the ethical foundation of a yogic life. Whether through the 10 Commandments or Islam's 5 pillars, these systems were designed to embed spiritual consciousness into the very rhythm of daily existence. These systems were never solely about worship or the afterlife. They were fundamentally about the transformation of the here and now. They taught that true spiritual growth begins with ethical clarity and daily discipline, making the journey toward transcendence inseparable from how one lives and serves. In this light, belief is not just a map for salvation, but a practical guide for becoming fully human. Long before neuroscience began mapping the brain, religious disciplines functioned as ancient technologies of the self. Practices like fasting, meditation, and confession were never merely acts of devotion. They were structured methods for emotional regulation and cognitive reframing. These rituals trained the mind to focus and the body to endure, serving as a form of inner engineering that refines consciousness. Modern science now validates what ancient traditions have always intuited, that ritual enhances neuroplasticity and reflection improves emotional resilience. What we once viewed solely as spiritual gestures are now understood as tools that physically reshape neural pathways. Today, we see that these disciplines are not relics of the past, but enduring, scientifically supported tools for human flourishing. Faith systems rarely promise a life of ease. Instead, they offer a way to find profound meaning within hardship. Across traditions, struggle is viewed not as a detour from the path, but as the path itself a necessary fire for refining the soul. From Arjuna's moral crisis to the trials of the prophets, these stories teach us that adversity is not a punishment, but a purification. Resilience, in the eyes of faith, is not about avoiding pain, but about aligning with purpose through the midst of adversity. The stories of Job or the Buddha reveal that suffering can be a doorway to awakening and a catalyst for clarity. Struggle becomes sacred when it deepens our connection to something greater than ourselves, transforming chaos into a calling. While modern self-help often begins with the individual, faith inevitably begins with the community. Self-help situates growth within personal ambition and metrics, whereas faith anchors transformation in legacy and cosmic purpose. One seeks to optimize the self for performance, while the other seeks to refine the soul for connection and service. Self-help encourages individual mastery and control, but faith reminds us that healing is relational, ethical, and sacred. A morning routine might boost productivity, but a morning prayer cultivates humility and reminds us of our place in the wider web of life. By shifting the focus from me to we, faith moves us beyond self-optimization and toward communal meaning. Faith does not seek to erase the ego, but rather to discipline it and place it in service of a higher good. It asks not just how to succeed, but how to serve, reframing life from a project to be perfected into a pilgrimage to be deepened. In this way, belief acts as a compass, steering us away from narcissism and toward a life of integrated purpose. Even among atheists and secular humanists, the influence of faith-based systems remains a profound, often invisible undercurrent. Religious traditions have given us the moral language of justice, dignity, and sacrifice that underpins our modern concepts of human rights. Social norms like charity and community care are deeply rooted in these teachings, persisting even when the theology is removed. Thinkers who questioned or rejected God, from Kama to Nietzsche, still wrestled deeply with the frameworks religion provided. They engaged with concepts of suffering, freedom, and moral responsibility, often echoing the introspective depth of religious inquiry. This suggests that faith functions as a cultural substrate, informing how all humans navigate questions of meaning, regardless of their creed. Modern interpreters are increasingly reframing spiritual belief through the lens of science, finding that this synthesis deepens rather than dilutes the sacred. Quantum physics and cosmology invite contemplation of a unified reality that echoes ancient creation narratives. Rather than adversaries, science and faith are becoming complementary lenses, both seeking to explain the awe and order of the universe. Evolutionary biology, once seen as a challenger to religion, now examines the biological roots of altruism and cooperation. It suggests that ethical behavior and the drive for connection may be biologically embedded in our species, resonating with spiritual teachings. This convergence invites a synthesis of empirical insight and metaphysical wonder, bridging the gap between the material and the mystical. Faith systems shape not only our inner lives, but fundamentally alter how we view and pursue prosperity. They challenge the modern equation of success with accumulation, urging us to seek richness in character and relationships instead. True prosperity is presented not as a private conquest, but as a shared blessing that flows from inner discipline to outer generosity. In traditions like Islam and Christianity, wealth is viewed as a divine trust, a test of stewardship rather than a badge of status. The concept of righteous earning and mandatory charity ensures that personal gain does not come at the cost of social justice. Prosperity, therefore, is not just about what we have, but about how we use it to uplift those around us. Buddhism and Hinduism reframe the very nature of desire, suggesting that the deepest form of abundance is actually inner peace and freedom from craving. When we detach our self-worth from our assets, we discover a wealth that is immune to market shifts. This perspective shifts the goalpost from having more to being more. In our fast-paced, consumer-driven world, the tension between materialism and spiritual values is more pronounced than ever. The pursuit of more often leads to a treadmill of anxiety, while spiritual values offer a grounding resilience. Integrating these realms allows us to pursue financial stability without losing our soul to the hollow chase of accumulation. Unchecked prosperity without ethical grounding can distort values and corrode the bonds that hold communities together. Faith traditions warn that when material wealth becomes the dominant metric, moral choices are often sacrificed for profit. However, when prosperity is rooted in gratitude and stewardship, it becomes a powerful force for ethical growth and societal health. Mortality casts a long, clarifying shadow over our pursuit of wealth, forcing us to ask what truly matters when time is limited. This awareness strips away illusions, revealing that true prosperity lies in how we lived and who we loved, not what we owned. Death acts as the ultimate filter, distinguishing between the hollow and the holy. If mortality is the mirror, then legacy is the echo, the imprint we leave behind when our possessions fade. Ethical wealth is about transmitting values, wisdom, and spiritual grounding to the next generation. It is a process of preparing the soul and the community for a future that extends beyond our own lifespan. True prosperity is not confined to a single lifetime. It is an intergenerational responsibility to pass down moral examples. Just as biological traits are inherited, spiritual and ethical values must be cultivated and transmitted to ensure the survival of the community. The most enduring inheritance is not financial, but the integrity and compassion we instill in our descendants. Designing an ethical inheritance means engaging in a process that aligns financial legacy with moral clarity. It involves moving beyond the transaction of assets to the transmission of purpose, ensuring that wealth empowers rather than corrupts. This form of ethical abundance secures continuity through character, creating a legacy that uplifts rather than burdens. As we close this reflection, we arrive at a deeper question. What is sacred beyond the systems we have built? Inner harmony is the soil in which true abundance grows. Without it, prosperity is merely noise. Ultimately, spirituality expands beyond rigid boundaries, inviting us into a space where truth is pursued through wonder, service, and an enduring quest for meaning.